Meteorologists are at a loss to explain what is causing this weather and why it has taken them by surprise.
It is the agenda for the 21st century you're living in today. For a brave new world where everything that you cherished and held true will no longer exist.
The rainstorms in Albania sent floodwaters overflowing onto the Lana riverbanks in Tirana, and residents across the country fleeing for higher ground. At least 3 people have been killed in the flooding. Now more than 3,500 rescue personnel are out, hoping to save others from the same fate.
Flames erupting this afternoon, threatening Christy Wyatt's home. Wyatt was worried.
With the wind blowing, and that it would catch the house on fire.
Hard work from 3 area fire departments and the Alabama Forestry Commission, and they were able to contain the fire. Over in the Empire area, several large wildfires breaking out within the week. The biggest one starting on Friday.
From 250 acres to 600 acres to now, we've got it hemmed up at 1,308 acres.
Fire crews had to deal with a tough layout fighting the fire.
We got difficult terrain. Also, we've got down timber from the 2011 tornadoes. So you've got just many different things working against you at the moment.
The fire jumped fire breaks, and it took air support and hard work to contain the fire. Power poles in the area caught fire, and crews had to replace them today.
Well, other news now, the recent wildfires are creating a health hazard now for some in parts of our state. The Kentucky Department of Public Health has issued a smoke inhalation advisory.
Laurel County is one of the affected areas.
For planet Earth, America's choice for president could have serious implications. Donald Trump has called climate change a hoax and said he would tear up the Paris deal to keep global warming below 2 degrees.
This is day 4 of this smoke filling the skies of the Carolinas, even parts of Tennessee and Georgia. It's all stemming from a wildfire in the mountains near Lake Lure.
Just some.
China has successfully launched a test pulsar satellite. It was launched at Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in northwest China's Gansu province Thursday morning. After entering orbit, the satellite will conduct experiments on X-ray pulsar navigation. This is a technique that uses periodic X-ray signals emitted from pulsars to determine the location of a spacecraft in deep space. The move brings closer to reality autonomous spacecraft navigation and more precise deep space location technology.
Now, the Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto has said on Wednesday that he was ready to work with Donald Trump. However, the country's foreign minister reiterated the government's refusal to pay for Trump's proposed border wall. Meanwhile, Trump's victory caused the peso to plunge to an all-time low. The currency broke past 20 pesos per dollar, its biggest fall since 1994. The currency had faced vulnerability over the past few months as Trump threatened to rip up a free trade pact with Mexico.
President-elect Donald Trump is to make his first visit to the White House at the invitation of President Barack Obama just 24 hours after his stunning victory. Although Obama had declared Trump unfit to be president during the divisive election campaign, both men have now expressed the need to look to the future.
Well, I just had the opportunity to have an excellent conversation with President-elect Trump. It was wide-ranging. We talked about some of the organizational issues in setting up a White House. We talked about foreign policy. We talked about domestic policy. And as I said last night, my number one priority in the coming 2 months is to try to facilitate a transition that ensures our president-elect is successful.
We reject the president-elect! We reject the president-elect!
Election anger boiling over in Ybor City.
Donald Trump, go away!
Frustration after months of campaigning.
This is not where our country is about.
And over the newly elected future commander-in-chief.
I'm scared. I'm scared.
But the thing is, things like this matter.
Tens of thousands of Americans upset over the election of Donald Trump took to the streets from coast to coast. In Oakland, you see right here, people set fire in the streets. They carried signs calling for California to secede from what they call Trump's United States.
And here they come up Fifth Avenue towards Trump Tower, where now President-elect Donald Trump lives. There are angry scenes here, people chanting, "Not my president, not my president," despite calls from Hillary Clinton to the rest of America to accept the results. People are very angry here. Remember, there's a big divide between areas that went for Hillary Clinton and went for Donald Trump. In the big cities like Manhattan, people are angry.
Thousands of people across the country and some here in the Bay Area protesting the election of Donald Trump. In California, protesters shut down a highway, Highway 101, linking Hollywood to Los Angeles. In Manhattan, hundreds gathered on Columbus Circle. And in New Orleans, protesters lit a Trump effigy on fire.
The president-elect, and the woman who wanted to be president all call for the exact opposite of what we're seeing, imploring the country to come together following a historical political victory.
Shock made way for anger as protests erupted across America in the wake of Donald Trump's victory. In his hometown of New York, thousands of people gathered outside Trump Tower. Many of them argued Trump did not win, but hate, racism, misogyny and xenophobia triumphed.
Chaos in the Chilean Congress was followed by the forcible ejection of a number of public sector workers. They went to the lower house to protest against changes to public sector salaries which were being voted on in the chamber. The leader of the National Association of Fiscal Employees has urged workers to strike until the next move has been determined.
There's been a suspected grenade attack on a security post outside the French embassy in central Athens. Police say an object was thrown by one of two people on a passing motorbike. It then exploded, injuring the officer who was on duty at the time.
I know people who the very fact or the idea of Hillary Clinton being elected would cause the same kind of dread, maybe without the lacrimation and the, the vapors in public. But this is the most unrealistic, self-fed, this momentum that's artificially being created by the mainstream media, because their days are numbered. This is a man who was beholden, Ed, to no one. And he's going to tell the GOP and others, you didn't help me, Reince Priebus, Ryan, none of you people. I did this on my own. So I'm starting off with a clean slate. And the only people that I'm dealing with right now are the American people. Now, I don't know about you.
Is he going to be that populist, you think?
Ed, we've never had anything. Let me just put it to you this way.
Well, we talk about glass ceilings, okay? Hillary, the glass ceiling, first woman, time out. Trump's glass ceiling. He has proven that you don't have to be in government to be the president of the United States. I think that's as big a story as anything else. He's never even been a dog catcher.
Nobody's talking about this. And Ed, think about this. In your lifetime, when did you ever see American families say, honey, kids, quick, the president's about to have a press conference? The first time he walks out, remember how we just thought JFK was brilliant and Reagan? We're going to see this man. He is energized. And Ed, Mr. Putin is dealing with him. For the first time, I don't know about you, all these people crying in this lobby of this hotel you're in.
Well, I did
but
see
I
it.
don't. I'm not saying you didn't. But I know people who feel a sense of relief because we are teetering right now in a Cold War situation that could go hot like this.
Well, do you, obviously because she lost, but all this rhetoric and all this accusation and finger pointing about the Russians did her no good at all.
Absolutely.
Was there any calculation within their camp? Hey, this is really a good thing to do. Why don't you go out there and stick it to Putin and people will think you're going to be a tough commander-in-chief? If that's the case, that was a serious miscalculation. And here's Trump. Hey, what do you say we get along with Putin? I mean, I understand Putin picking up the phone and calling him because Trump has said, yeah, I'll talk to the guy. What a great place to start. Why can't Obama do that kind of stuff?
Well, nobody minded when he went to Cuba. That was a different story. Oh, he was like, it was Nixonian.
Yeah.
Listen, let me just explain something. I just want the world and the American people to try this. You ready for this? Let the man try something.
Yeah.
Let him at least have day one. Look, I'm not saying everything is hunky-dory, but I've got news for you. It's the status quo that scares a lot of people, including me.
Aren't you anxious to see what he's going to do in his, quote, first 100 days? Every time there's a new president, okay, what's the first 100 days agenda? What are we going to do? He might get more done in 10 days than most did in 100. Look, he's a manager. He is a manager. Okay, if you're managing a lot of people, you delegate, you follow through, you follow up, you hold people accountable, you might even fire a few people. So I think this is so new and different. I'm being positive about it. I believe that this might wake up the Democrats as well. They're not going to get everything they want. The Republicans might not get everything they want because you know what? You guys did filibuster us a lot. We can play that game too. What about that?
Look, there's a part of me that's still, I stop in the middle of the street sometime with traffic, and I think to myself, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Donald Trump, and I said the same thing for Ronald Reagan. Bedtime for Bonzo, Hellcats of the Navy, this doddering B actor. And look, he did pretty well. So I'm just saying, I beg the world, and especially my fellow citizens of this grand republic, give the man a chance. And enough with the vapors. Oh, Lordy, Mr. Head, I don't know what we're going to do. Would you knock it off? It's this weird kind of this conversion reaction, especially on social media, the bane of my existence, where people try to out-hype and out-schmaltz and out-lacrimate the other. Enough. Give the man a chance.
The Italian military is to be deployed to a region of the country hit by a powerful earthquake last week. Soldiers will be protecting cultural heritage sites from looting that after a 17th century oil painting was stolen from a damaged church. Following a number of earthquakes over the past few months, EU officials have promised to provide assistance needed.
Cuba has announced a week of nationwide military exercises a day after the U.S. elected Donald Trump as its next president. The drills will include troop movements and explosions from the 16th to the 20th of November. Cuba has held what it calls the Bastion Strategic Exercise every few years since 1980, often in response to moments of tension with its northern neighbor.
Iraqi federal police prepare to join the fight to recapture Mosul from ISIL. Early expectations of a swift victory have proved overly optimistic.
The civilians and other factors are behind our slow advance towards our targets. We intend to advance slowly in order to not jeopardize lives of families and civilians in neighborhoods.
We do stand on the edge of a great new era.
We built this great industrial powerhouse.
The whole idea of industrial capitalism in the West, government that was going to invest in infrastructure.
It is a time for pathfinders and pioneers.
What happened to the American century?
The share of income that we put into infrastructure has gone down starkly.
If you travel around the country, there's just not that much that's new.
What happened to America's ideal of progress?
All these things that had been established after the Great Depression fell apart.
You'll see that whole streets are just closing down.
A community that's undereducated, underemployed.
Baltimore was a blue-collar town. Now the air quality is wonderful because there's no industry here anymore. It's beyond light.
Detroit had a population of about 2 million people in 1950. It's now a little over 600,000.
Huge percentage of the budget goes to the military. This is an economy that's based to a large degree on killing people.
If you were to cut the military budget in half, we'd have a depression in the United States.
So they're literally working full-time and making poverty wages.
You have 1,600 vacant houses. It's insane.
They said, let's save a few dollars and pump the water in from the Flint River.
Decades and decades of being ignored.
Americans are finding themselves in a desperate situation.
There's new slaves.
A lot of talented people here, but you will never know because of the reputation we got.
If you're an entrepreneur right now in America, the last thing you want to do is take risks. This is not a world I want to take risks in.
America is not the pillar of democracy and freedom that it was once seen to be.
Here we are, naked in front of the world. It's a real tragedy.